Good morning and welcome to this week's Grow, where we gather to recharge, organize, and work here as members of MWAG. We're glad you joined us. Today we are talking about powering the polls, and today is National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. And Catherine Esslinger is with us, and she's going to explain what does that mean to members of MWAG. And then we have some other MWAG members who are going to share their experiences that they've had of being poll workers. Some poll worker positions are volunteer and some are paid. And so we're just going to talk about that today. And if you have, you can put in the comments your experiences, or even, just be part of this discussion. So I'm going to turn the time over to Catherine.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Yes, it's like a democracy holiday today, National Poll Worker Recruitment Day, and we hope that you'll see a lot of messages from a lot of different organizations that are interested in like supporting our institutions and supporting the Republic. That you'll see a lot of messages from them today about like becoming a poll worker or helping find poll workers, because there is always a great need. So we partner with an organization called Power the Polls. And Power the Polls started in 2020 when many poll workers were at increased health risk, because many poll workers might be retired or older people who don't have a day job that they have to go to on election day or during early voting. And so there was just a really serious need for recruitment of new people to help to make our elections run in 2020. And we've partnered with them in 2020, 2022, and now again in 2024 to help recruit poll workers around the country. Our goal this year is to recruit at least 50 MWAG members to be poll workers around the country. Wherever you are in your county, it's very likely that your county does need poll workers of some kind, whether that's like ballot processing after the election or during early voting or on election day, especially with specific skills like being bilingual in one of the English plus one of the many other languages that are spoken around this country, indigenous languages, languages of like, I've seen a lot of requests for languages like Vietnamese, Hmong, I'm trying to think of so many, virtually any language you can think of, it's needed in many of our counties around the country. So we have, there are counties all the time that are coming up on a list of things that are needed, poll workers who are needed. So we want to keep our members up to date on what's needed. And we have, in many states where we have a lot of MWAG members, we actually have a lot of needs. Like Idaho has a lot of needs for poll workers in counties where we have a lot of members, like Ada County, Madison County. We also have a lot of needs in California where we have some MWAG membership. California actually needs a lot of poll workers this year. We have needs in New York State as well. So I know we have some people we have Laura from New York who could possibly be a poll worker too. So that's what we're trying to recruit 50, at least 50 poll workers. In 2023, which was a municipal election year, we recruited 23 poll workers, which is pretty good for a municipal year. But we're trying to more than double that this year. So we'd love to know if you can help us. We actually have a link that helps us to track how many people we have recruited. I'm going to put that in the chat. You might also see it in many places on our social media today and in the next couple of days. That helps us to know. It will connect you to your county's poll worker application form, but it also helps us to know just how we're doing on our goal to track. We have a lot of people here in this call who have been poll workers in the past, but we have a couple of people who I talked to previously who would like to tell us about their experience. And Kim Lewis is one of those people. Kim, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've done?
Sure. I was a poll worker in Montana, and then became a chief judge. And when I moved back to North Idaho, I just went into my county clerk and said, hey, I've been a poll worker and a chief judge before. And they said, you're hired. So yeah, and I've mostly been in rural areas, rural communities. And an interesting thing with this push to do away with absentee ballots, I am the chief judge in a precinct that is not the precinct where I vote. They just had a shortage in that area. And so without absentee or early voting, I would not be able to vote or not be able to work as a poll worker. And so I think that's important for people to understand. I think you asked a little bit about like, how do you register? What are some differences between the states? Every state is connected to vote.gov. And so vote.gov is the official website, and then it's voteidaho.gov, voteutah.gov, and you can go and find your, the requirements on what you need to be able to vote. One thing that I've noticed, the young people are having a hard time getting registered to vote. For example, in Idaho, they passed some pretty strict requirements of documentation in order to register to vote. And a lot of 18-year-olds, if they're seniors in high school or just graduating, they do not have anything with a piece of official mail with their name and their physical address. For example, the precinct that I'm in, everybody has a PO box. That will not work. It has to be your physical address. So getting something in their name with their physical address, like, a utility bill, an insurance card would work if their name is on it and their physical address, but a lot of times they're on their parents' auto insurance. So that doesn't work. So that is really hard. And then the other thing that we ran into, Idaho really, they really restricted what forms of ID we can use. A few years ago, we actually used a Costco card because it had their picture on it. And so we knew that that's who that was as a form of ID, but they have really tried to tighten that up. And I don't agree with that because they have to prove who they are and that they're eligible to vote in many different ways. But in Idaho, for example, they will only accept an Idaho driver's license, Idaho identification card, so a state issued identification card, your passport or some kind of federal ID with a picture, a tribal card, the ID card, or a concealed weapons license. That's all you can use. So they will not allow a student ID as a picture ID, which is very frustrating for, if you have someone who maybe has some disabilities and does not drive. I have a family member who probably will never drive. She does have a passport right now, but, we've run into the problem where in the nursing homes, people who have been able to vote for years and years and years and years saw no need to keep their driver's license up. So they do not have a current driver's license and they do not have a passport. Therefore, they were not able to vote this year. And that is infuriating because here are all these elderly people who have voted and they want to vote and they have not been able to vote. And so that is very frustrating. So you have to be really careful and go on your state website and find out what you need and what is acceptable. And it will give you the list of all those things that you need in order to register. And another thing I just wanted to say is make sure that you are constantly checking that website because a lot of voter registry purges have happened. So you may think that you are registered and for one reason or another, you have been removed. So make sure to tell people to keep checking that to make sure that you are still registered. Is there anything else?
Well, that's in the chat. Lisa Tingy, who's been a poll worker herself, says, like as a poll worker, it's very frustrating and sad when you have to turn people away who thought that they were going to be able to vote but are not on the rolls, or who don't have the required documentation and things like that. That's really challenging. Yeah.
Okay, so I did notice instead of updating the driver's license, can't they just get an ID from the same office? The problem is getting to that office. So we have been trying to, and we're in a small county, so we're trying to work with the county clerk's office and then the driver's license office to figure out a way that maybe we have 3 nursing homes in our county. And so if they could maybe go there and help them get, or verify at least. So we're trying to figure that out, but the legislature has really, they're trying to get people out of the voting registration, out of the register. So it is very hard. So we're still working on that. And I don't know if we'll have it ready by the November election.
Well, it's so great that you're working to try to give access to those people who might not otherwise have access. And it's really, that's one of the roles of a poll worker, is to help provide, not prior to the election, but your role as a poll worker is to provide the opportunity for people to vote. If we didn't have enough poll workers, we would not be able to have open polling sites, and people would have to go to larger sites where the lines would be longer and it'd be more challenging for them. Robin, you want to tell us about your experience as a poll worker?
Absolutely. I've been a poll worker 3 times. Once a really, really long time ago, when the poll was actually set up in someone's garage. They'd open their garage, set the tables up, and people from the neighborhood would come in and do their voting that way. And then I worked I live in Los Angeles, in La Crescenta. It's kind of near Pasadena, near Glendale. And then in 2016, I worked that election, and that was held in the Hilton Hotel down in Glendale. And then in 2020, I worked that election, and that was held at a library. Oh, you know what? I worked in 2022 as well. So anyway, I've worked multiple times, more than I remembered. I'm just now remembering. And yeah, it's been a great experience. What I loved about it is you really feel like you're part of the process. You get to see how the system works, at least how it works in California. And I would want to say to people who claim, oh, there's all this voter fraud and the election was stolen, I like to say, have you ever been a poll worker? Do you actually see how the process works? How it works is you get some training ahead of time, and then you are just given an assignment, show up at this location, and you go show up. And the vast majority of the workers are literally just showing up and meeting each other for the first time that morning. And so in order for there to have been enough fraud to swing an election, you would have had to convince people on the spot to commit fraud right then and there. And that would have had to have happened across many, many sites. What is the probability of that happening? And so these people who claim fraud in the election, my first question is, have you ever been a poll worker? And so anyway, I think by being a poll worker, you get to see how the machines work, the dual control processes over every single junction. And anyway, just to me, it reinforced the confidence and trust in the system. And I just really, I really thoroughly enjoyed doing it.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah. And it is a long day, isn't it, on election day? I mean, starting very early in the morning and then continuing until fairly late in the evening. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that is true. In California, they actually have an 11-day window for voting. They have 11 days for for a few areas, and then 4 days for everywhere. So you either have to sign up for 11 days or for 4 days. So I signed up for 4 days. And yeah, it goes from like 7 in the morning till 7 at night. On the official election day, it goes from like 6 in the morning till like 9 or 10 at night, because you have to close everything down, seal everything, get everything all organized and taken down. So it does make for some very long days. But it's absolutely worth it. In California, we do get a small stipend for working. And so that's nice, but I would do it even if I weren't getting a small stipend. I just feel like it's an important thing to do. Interestingly enough, for anybody in California who's working or listening, when I signed up last year, and she assigned me to La Cañada, which is right. I live in La Crescenta, and La Cañada is right next door. And that is a very affluent area, La Crescenta moderately so. And the person said that, can you please ask your friends to sign up, because they were really having a hard time finding people in that area. And I was so surprised, because I thought that a really affluent area, you'd have more flexibility, you'd have more opportunity to volunteer. And she said that just wasn't happening. And so I would say, definitely, if you have any flexibility whatsoever in your job or your life circumstance, go ahead, and it's well worth doing it.
Yeah, many states will allow teenagers who are 16 or 17 to also be poll workers. And what a great way to introduce your young person to, participating in democracy, and also maybe getting that stipend, a little bit of pocket money there. So I think that's a really great opportunity for our young people too. Lisa, did you want to share any of your thoughts? And Nita had a question in the chat about how long it takes to hear back from particularly Salt Lake County. And I actually don't know how long one should expect your county to take to respond to you. Anybody have any thoughts about how long you might expect your county to take to tell you whether they need you or not, and when they might need you? I know it seems early to be thinking about poll worker recruitment, but the elections offices do want to identify and hire or secure the poll workers early, so that they can, feel real, like they really are prepared for the election. So, starting now is a reasonable thing to think about. Anita, I think maybe nobody really knows, but we could maybe calling the election. What did you want to say?
Are you calling on me because I raised my hand? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah. So in addition, in setting up this grow, it was also asked to share notions about, if people feel like, oh, I don't want to vote in this, I don't like the candidates, and so I'm just not even going to vote. And to me, that is absolutely the most ridiculous thing to say. I don't like the candidates, and so I'm not going to vote. Well, then you're going to get even lousier people voted in. Because if you say, I don't like anybody, so I'm not going to vote for anybody, then usually the people, then you have a smaller percentage of people voting. And so you have a minority voting in people who then govern the majority. And we don't want that. We want a majority of people voting. And so if you look in other countries where people said, we're going to boycott voting because we don't agree with things that the government is trying to do, so we're going to boycott this vote. Yeah, so they boycotted the vote, and what happened? The opposition got voted in across the board. Now what voice do they have? It makes no sense whatsoever. It's completely illogical. And so you can tell I feel very passionate, really passionate about this. But if you don't like who is voting, choose the lesser of two evils, and then go work to get better people to vote. Isn't that what it says? Is DNC 124 or DNC 134, one of those, that we should be actively looking for people to represent us. So
it's not just the president that we're voting for. Everybody has a congressman, you know, we don't have a senator this year that's coming up to vote. I wish they were, but everybody's got somebody in the House of Representatives because they are voted for every 2 years. Plus people in their, in their county or in their city, maybe.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. Those county and city and even your state representatives and your state senators are so important. And those are people that you may like actually be able to be in touch with regularly. And those are the things that touch your life a lot.
Well, also there's in a lot of states, there are votes for amendments to the Constitution that are coming up, which are important.
Super important. Yes. Ballot initiatives, all kinds of things are on the ballot. Judges. Yes. Kim, what did you have?
Yes.
To add?
I just wanted to mention that in the Idaho primary last May, only 9% of Republicans voted in their candidates. And so the candidates that we have on the ballot, for November, only 9% voted for them. And so we're, it's a minority rule kind of thing. And so it's so important. We do have, Idaho has on the ballot this fall, open primaries and ranked choice voting. And we're hoping the parties, well, the Republican Party is fighting very hard to get that defeated. But when you're in a completely red state or a complete blue state, and it is, you feel like you don't have a voice. I think that this is one of the only ways that we can get some of the more extreme candidates out and have our candidates work more towards the middle, which is where most of us are, in the middle. And so I'm hoping, we're working towards it. We're hoping that it'll pass, but 9%, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. We're watching the Idaho open primaries question really closely because it's really interesting. It's exciting to see that happen. Lisa, did you, I kind of gave you an opportunity, but then I stopped giving you an opportunity to say anything. Did you want to share anything with us?
I just adding on to what everyone else has said, I just think, I shared like a little video on Instagram about how it was so cool to see so many people from all different walks of life coming and, knowing that they had this chance to make a difference, but I agree with Kim that it was really disheartening to see just how low a percentage of people really turned out, and not only for the primaries, but these were for, general elections. And in addition, it just helped me overall to know how to be a better advocate, because when you see these things firsthand, you definitely find ways that things can be improved. You see problems with some of the quote unquote solutions that are put in place. And if you don't go out and experience it for yourself, then it's hard to understand, because there's so many different voices that want change, and it's not always for great reasons. So yeah, it really helps you to become a better advocate in general.
All right, that's great. I'm so excited for to see how many people we can recruit, hear about experiences that our members have had. After the election, we should have another discussion where we talk about, how everyone's experience was as a poll worker, and we can learn from one another and share that.
Yes, I love hearing all of these experiences that are shared. And when we get this up put the recording up, I would encourage you to share it with your friends. It's just a YouTube link, and you can just say, here's some experiences of some women. These are all women of faith who are members of MWAG who have gone out and done this. And then encourage, maybe they'd sign up with a friend, and maybe they, I don't know how the process necessarily works. If you would be working with a friend, that might look like collusion. I don't know, but sometimes you just want a little bit of support, moral support in something that maybe seems a little bit scary or just new, right? That's kind of where I'm like, this sounds interesting to me, but also it sounds just a little bit daunting. But I appreciate all of your voices and your experiences and sharing, and it gives me hope for this election, that people want to sign up, that people want to be involved. And like Lisa said, that it also is one of those where you are stepping into an experience where you get to see a lot of different experiences of a lot of different people. So I think that's a real advantage that all of you who have done it already have in working as a poll worker. So yes, we will add the link. And like Catherine said, you'll be seeing different things from MWAG over today and the next couple of days. So invite your friends to join. Maybe invite some of the women in your Relief Society. If you have like some sort of chat or newsletter, this is a completely nonpartisan, non-threatening thing everybody can do and participate in, and you don't have to say who you're voting for or who you support when you are a poll worker. You just get to go and wear your red, white, and blue like I did today, and just be, a patriotic citizen. So thank you, everybody. Catherine, thank you so much for backing this and being, the cheerleader for Power the Polls MWAG. we appreciate that. So thank you again, and everybody. Thanks for coming to the Grow, and we hope you'll join us next week. We have a virtual event coming up that we're going to announce next week and give just some updates of the things that MWAG is up to. So join us next time. We'll see you later.